Hey there, it's Steve from Serious Keto, and I am back with another keto slash low carb bread review, this time for extraordinary bites. I will be reviewing the 2 net carb bread, the 1 net carb bread, the Hawaiian rolls, and the bagels. I'll be starting with the 1 net carb bread. But before I start, just a few little housekeeping details, information, that sort of thing. This Extraordinary Bites bread was recommended to me by a number of different viewers. They said that I could find it at Walmart. It's actually found in the frozen section, and I had to go to 3 different Walmart supercenters to find it. In terms of the testing, I will test this exactly the same way I've tested every other bread so far, so it's apples to apples in terms of testing. I am wearing a Dexcom G6 continuous glucose monitor, so I will be measuring continuously over the course of 2 hours. My blood glucose is currently stable in the mid-90s. I will have 2 slices of this. One, just plain room temperature. The other will be toasted and buttered. Now, I don't know if having the bread frozen will have any sort of an impact. I had done that video previously on freezing bread and creating a resistant starch, and the results on that were kind of true, I guess. There was a decrease in the overall blood glucose spike compared to a baseline bread, but not a substantial decrease. So before the taste test and the glucose test, let's take a look at the nutritional information and ingredients. Serving size is 1 slice, 30 calories per slice, 1 gram of fat, 9 grams of total carbohydrates, 8 grams of dietary fiber for a net 1, and 3 grams of protein. Ingredients are going to be problematic for some people. Water, that's okay. Then we have modified tapioca starch, wheat gluten, oat fiber, yeast, inulin, fully refined soybean oil. I'm not thrilled about that. That's usually a recipe for joint pain for me. Psyllium musk powder, allulose, salt, cultured wheat flour, and vinegar. So if you are doing strict keto, I think it's safe to say that this bread is not going to be for you. If you're more flexible with your keto lifestyle, well, let's see what happens. First, just the plain bread. It's got a decent tear to it. Kind of obvious that it's got the gluten in there. You don't usually get that sort of a springiness without it. The taste is pretty much like Wonder Bread. The texture, though, is very, almost immediately powdery in my mouth. It's lingering there, kind of on my tongue. So not a real pleasant mouthfeel. Yeah, I'm telling you, straight up, without anything on it, this is not great bread. So while I've got my toast toasting, or I guess it's bread now, it's not toast until it's done, I'm going to kick off my Levels software, which is the software that I use to do the analysis that comes from the continuous glucose monitor. And I'm going to just snap a picture of this. And that will kick off the timer. And here I have the toasted bread with some butter on it. One of the things I didn't mention, the 1 net carb bread is a white bread. The 2 net carb bread is a wheat bread. So this is the white bread. So as is the case with all the breads that I've tested, toasting and butter definitely makes it better. There is still that sort of lingering powdery mouthfeel though. But I'm going to finish this. I'm going to finish the rest of the untoasted bread, and I will be back in 2 hours with the blood glucose results. So I've waited 2 hours, which is the amount of time that the Level software requires to do the analysis of the data from the continuous glucose monitor. But before I pull that up, my prediction is we're going to see a spike. And the reason I feel that way is because I'm hungry. I rarely get hungry before 3 or 4 p.m. on any given day. I intermittent fast not because it's a thing, but just because I don't get hungry. And I'm hungry right now, and it's 11 a.m. So let's pull up the Level software and moderate spike. So we moved 33 points. So 30, the threshold of 30 is generally considered a spike, and we exceeded that. So for a bread that didn't taste all that great and had sort of that powdery mouthfeel, and it spikes my blood glucose, and it's got some ingredients in there that I'm really not that fond of, I think it's safe to say that I'm done eating that bread. Next up, we have the 3 net carbs, keto-friendly New York-style bagels. In terms of nutrition facts, we have 140 calories per bagel, 6 grams of total fat, a whopping 25 grams of total carbs, of which 22 is dietary fiber for the net 3, and 17 grams of protein. In terms of ingredients, we have modified isolate. What is this? There's like a comma there. That's weird. Modified isolate. I don't know what that means. Oat fiber, soybeans oil. They made it plural. That's weird. Chicory root extract and less than 2% of guar gum, xanthan gum, monoglycerides, natural butter flavor, citric acid, enriched wheat flour. That looks like about it. I think everything else, yeast and salt. Everything else is part of the flour. So to make this as real-world applicable as possible, my plan is to toast the bagel and then apply a generous amount of cream cheese to it. So I have here my bagel. I put cream cheese on one side. I did not put it on the other side because I want to see what it tastes like just straight up. If it's not very good, I'll probably cream cheese it up. It's not bad. I'm trying to decide what I think of the flavor exactly. It's been probably 5 years since I've had a real true bagel, but I can tell you it doesn't taste like a bagel, but that doesn't mean it tastes bad. Additionally, the texture is not as chewy and gluten-y as a bagel, but I'm going to get someone on camera right now who has had a bagel more recently than me to give her non-keto assessment of this. So here we have Courtney, and you're going to try out the plain first.
Kind of smells like bread that's not quite cooked all the way.
Little yeasty smelling, but yeah, I think that's a good assessment.
Texture's a little off. It's really sour.
Yeah, it's got sort of a sour, yeasty taste to it.
I surely would not have it by itself.
Okay, let's see what you think with the cream cheese. I'm gonna.
Way better, but still totally get that sour thing at the end.
I actually kind of like the sour, sort of a sourdough type of thing.
A little bit, but it's a little too much.
But when I put the cream cheese on it, it reminds me almost of like a jumbo pretzel, like a jumbo soft pretzel.
Yeah. It's fine. I'm totally going to make a sandwich with it right now and finish it.
Yeah, I suspect that if you put some roast beef or something on here along with that cream cheese, it would be a pretty good sandwich.
Yeah, but a real bagel is better.
Well, real bagel, not an option for me. So I'm going to finish this one, and I will be back in 2 hours with the blood glucose results. It has been a little over 2 hours. Let's take a look at how those bagels scored. Not bad. A 15-point rise in glucose, which is considered stable by the Level software. I'll take that. And I kind of enjoyed the flavor as well. So I guess if you're not opposed to the ingredients that I read off, and if you're counting net carbs, not total carbs, that could be an alright bagel for you. Next up, I have the Extraordinary Bites Hawaiian Sweet Rolls. Let's take a look at the nutritional information and ingredients. Serving size is 1 roll, 30 calories, 1 gram of total fat, 11 grams of total carbohydrate, of which 8 is dietary fiber for a net 3, and 4 grams of protein. In terms of ingredients, we have water, modified tapioca starch, wheat gluten, oat fiber, yeast erythritol, fully refined soybean oil, inulin, psyllium husk powder, salt, allulose, natural flavor, cultured wheat flour, vinegar. That's it. So for the purposes of this test, I am going to have 2 buns. The reason for this is, number 1, to be consistent with the bread, because the bread, a serving size, was 1 slice, and I had 2 slices. Also, I figure if I'm eating buns that are this small, whether it's for a little sandwich or slider or something like that, I'm probably going to have 2 anyway. Also, to be consistent with the bread review, I will have 1 without butter, and I will have 1 that is buttered. I don't plan on toasting them, though. I'll start with the no butter version. You're not going to confuse these with those King's Hawaiian rolls, the ones in the orange package. First, not nearly as sweet. I mean, nowhere as sweet. Texture-wise, I am, like that bread, getting that sort of, for lack of a better word, sort of a powdery mouthfeel on it. There's also just a little hint of sourness, maybe, for lack of a better word, almost a vinegary sort of note to it at the end. We'll see what butter does to this, if it takes it anyplace special. Not surprisingly, the butter makes a world of difference on this. It's actually kind of tasty with the butter. But now I'm going to finish both the buttered bun and the unbuttered bun, and I will be back in about 2 hours once the level software has compiled the data from my continuous glucose monitor. All right, let's take a look at what my blood glucose has been like for the last 2 hours. This is a little bit of a surprise to me. Given that the ingredients were very similar to that bread that we had in the first test, I was expecting something different than this, but wow, only a 12-point rise in glucose. Now, what is interesting, you can see there, it started to go up, and then it took a dip. I've never seen something like that before. I'm not sure if the butter could have caused that, but I gotta say, that's a pretty good glucose response. And once I put the butter on those rolls, they did taste quite a bit better. I think as a bun for a little cheeseburger or other sandwich, this could work. For our final test, we have the 2 net carb wheat bread. In terms of nutritional facts, serving size, 1 slice. Again, I will be having 2. 30 calories, 1 gram of total fat, 10 grams of total carbs, 8 grams of dietary fiber for a net 3 grams of protein. In terms of ingredients, we have water, modified wheat starch, wheat gluten, yeast, wheat bran, allulose, fully refined soybean oil, oat fiber, inulin, ground flax seeds, salt, cultured wheat flour, and vinegar. I'm going to throw 1 piece in the toaster while I test out the untoasted bread. The tear, an awful lot like a light wheat bread. The taste on it is pretty good. There's something at the end I can't quite identify. I don't know if it's from the vinegar that's in it or what, but something that just doesn't feel exactly like wheat bread. Maybe I'll figure out what it is, and if I do, I'll let you know. This does have a lot less of that powdery mouthfeel than the white bread did. Yeah, whatever that is at the end, it's the tiniest little bit bitter. I think generally when I have a wheat bread, I expect there to be just instead of that slightly bitter at the end, slightly sweet at the end, and this is not that. One of the things I find with a lot of these keto breads is once you toast them and then apply butter, their whole composition, their structure really seems to break down. It's almost like the powder is dissolving or something like that. This actually held up to the butter like real bread. That is pretty good. I mean, this could probably be mistaken for real wheat bread toasted with butter. Yeah, this is pretty solid. But the real test is going to be how it affects my blood glucose, and we'll know that in 2 hours. All right, let's see how that bread behaved. Levels scored that as a 7 or a gentle rise. It was a 21-point rise in glucose, so moderate, but not a spike. I'm going to say not bad. So before I share my final thoughts on the Extraordinary Bites products, a couple other things I want to share with you first. 2 nights ago, we made some sliders, some little cheeseburgers. Oh, they were really good. And I put them on the Extraordinary Bites Hawaiian rolls. The blood glucose response from that was essentially nothing. Now, it looks like there's a little something going on there in the graph, but if the level software sees less than, I believe, a 10-point movement in glucose, it considers it stable. So even though the buns alone produced a fairly low glucose response, the addition of those burger patties and that extra fat really blunted that glucose response. The other thing that I want to point out is I did experience some mild inflammation after eating this bread over the course of 5 days. It was most pronounced after the white bread. I was really kind of feeling puffy through my knuckles, feeling some stiffness in my right ankle and right knee, a little bit of stiffness and soreness through the back of my ribs. These are the places that basically it gets me when I eat something inflammatory, or inflammatory for me. And what tends to be inflammatory for me, it's pretty predictable, it's soybean oil. Now, I've had a lot worse inflammatory reactions from other products that use soybean oil, so I don't know if it's a quantity thing or a quality thing, but I would be remiss if I didn't tell you that I did experience some inflammation from this. And typically when I see soybean oil on a package, to me, it's not worth it. I put it back on the shelf. But I am not here to be the ingredient police. If you do not have an issue with soybean oil or any of the other ingredients in these extraordinary bites, I think we went 3 out of 4 on these. I mean, the wheat bread was sort of borderline. The white bread, I would say, is a no-go. It didn't taste good, I didn't like the texture, and it spiked my glucose. And in terms of the bagel and the Hawaiian roll, I actually enjoyed both of those. I think as keto products, and recognizing that they're not going to be exactly the same as regular flour-based products, they were good. Now, if you've tried out any of the Extraordinary Bites products and found that you have experienced a significant glucose response, or that it's knocked you out of ketosis, please let me know down in the comments below. I hope you found this review helpful. If you did, please click that like button. If you're not a subscriber already, tap that subscribe button, then hit the bell to turn on all notifications so you don't miss any of my videos. And if this video maybe saved you a little bit of money or helped you make a better purchase, pay it forward. Click that thanks button. Buy me a cup of coffee. Thanks for watching.